to share this. So this is a special proclamation. This is really in support of homeless youth, and this is Homeless Youth Awareness Month. So we want to be aware of homeless youth every month, but we really are highlighting that, and it's of all ages, right? It's some are under 18, some are 24, some are 20, even 21 soon. But there's making sure that they have the ability to succeed in life is a really important goal that we have, and programs like this are a big part of that. Our schools and community colleges, our support networks, really all an important part of it, because it all ties together to make sure that you guys have the opportunity to be where you want to be in 10 years, right? So hopefully you'll both be able to achieve those goals, and you'll be in real estate and doing yoga, and you'll be out in Washington, doing whatever you want your study to do, and get some kind of degree. And then, we want to highlight the need for that, and the need for programs like this. So I'm excited that you're going to be opening in Denver and Rhino, because there's not enough. There are there's still never enough, but there's a lot of support services for under 18. Never enough, but there's a lot. And then, there's what we have for adults, but there's special help that people that are, 18 to 25 are going to need, and just to help make the good decisions and get on the right path, and really having that tailored to your needs, because you have a whole future ahead of you, right? Where you want to be in 10 years, but also where you want to be in 20 years, and where you want to be in 30 years, right? And it's exciting to see the opportunities that you have working with the great, staff and the connections that you're going to make here. And at the same time, having a roof over your head, not having to worry about that, because that's great too, but it's a lot more than just that. So what we have here is a special resolution that really talks about how in the month of November, we want to focus on raising awareness about homeless youth across the entire state. And so this acknowledges the youth. I'll read it a little bit, but it talks about whereas more than 450 students experiencing homelessness dropped out of school, because it's hard to go to school if you don't have a stable place to live. Whereas Colorado continues to utilize single points of contact to support people experiencing homelessness. And then we also acknowledge, whereas COVID-19 has provided additional disruptions in education and services and life over the last year and a half, it's certainly not made anything better, and there were people that were having a tough time before, but it's made it an even tougher time for some. Whereas Colorado is expanding the Next Step 2 Generation program to address the growing needs of students and their families. Therefore, I, Jared Polis, Governor of the state of Colorado, do hereby proclaim November 2021 as Homeless Youth Awareness Month. So we'll give copies, and you guys can put one up if you want, and we're going to be sharing all the information about that. And the other thing we're doing, and Chris, I hope you're involved with this, is the state has one-time funds from the American Rescue Act, and we are making addressing the challenges of homelessness a significant part of that. The state will be investing about $200 million over the next 2 years, which sounds like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money. $200 million is a lot of money. Not enough to solve homelessness, but enough to make a big difference. And what I want to make sure of, Chris, is that in that response, we support the specific needs of youth homelessness, right? We want to support, supportive housing for adults and behavioral health services, but there's also, I think, it's also going to be important in including that strategy, how we can address some of the particular issues around youth homelessness. And so we'll want your help in working with the legislature to inform how to invest the $200 million that the state has, and hopefully invest alongside cities and counties, like the city of Boulder, County of Boulder, who also are really dedicated to helping to address this.
It's important to acknowledge two things, I think, Governor, real quickly, is that the investment in solving experiences of homelessness for young people is a pretty considerable prevention activity in this state and everywhere else. And so your commitment and funding priorities in the budget, I just want to say thank you for that. In this work, it will go a long way.
Yeah, thank you. And I think there's been generally, so far, good response from the legislature. I think they're very interested in partnering with us to do that. And then, again, we're very supportive of making sure that some of that is targeted around youth homelessness.
Well, we'll be there.
Great. What other observations do you, yeah?
Can I be your bodyguard?
State troopers, raise your hands, do you read state troopers? Yeah, if you wanna, career and law enforcement, talk to them. It's, we have a, careers in law enforcement and, depending on how, justice involved you've been, there's still ways to have careers in law enforcement. I mean, not if you've done anything really bad, but you probably wouldn't be here if you did, because you'd probably be in prison, so.
God's honor.
Yeah, we're always looking for, and so is, the local, police departments and others. But, you said you're also interested in real estate and, yoga, so a lot, you gotta figure out the couple things you wanna pursue. What other observations do kind of board members and staff have that they wanna share with me that I as governor should know about youth homelessness and what we can do to help?
Well, I'm not one to hold back.
Go for it.
Well, I think there's a mischaracterization of this issue, and it's a big issue, and the numbers are pretty significant. But I think it's really important that we all collectively commit to understanding that it's a solvable problem. And I think we've missed some opportunities by not looking at it as a solvable problem. And so I hope you'll jump on that train.
I hope so. I mean, people in Colorado want to think it's solvable. It seems so challenging because it seems like no matter what we do, it just seems like there's people out on the streets. And so I hope, and we want to believe it's solvable. We know that 200 million alone can't solve it, but we hope that can substantially reduce the homeless population. And it's dangerous to be homeless, which you guys experience. I mean, I didn't ask you about it, but I'm sure if you've been on the streets, you have some scary stories. Everybody does, right? Like, hopefully you didn't get hurt, but you might have had property stolen. You probably have friends who were hurt. I mean, it's not a good place to be. And so, these kinds of things are really important. But I think showing a vision of solving it is great because that's what every Coloradan really wants.
Yeah, I think along those lines, we have learned that interventions like this, permanent supportive housing, are part of the solution, right? This works to help people become safely housed and then transition to independent housing. There's more research to be done, but to that extent, we know what works, which is great. We have it always.
Yeah, and I've heard that there's an intention to invest more dollars into capital and building more buildings like this, but making sure that there are corresponding service dollars available for that. Because this building is successful partially because of the work of the transition specialist team, who are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to help address things that come up, because life happens, not just 9 to 5.
And that's harder for the state, and that's
Yeah.
the whole budget situation. So we have a lot of one-time money, but then longer term, we have something called TABOR, and we have a lot of budget constraints. So what we wanna do is we wanna leverage the one-time dollars and say kind of, hey, show us a plan for how you're gonna, maintain it and do the operation, show us that works, and then we can absolutely be a big partner up front in helping to make it happen.
Yeah, one of the things that I really appreciate for our project down in Wawata is that it's built in a community with 1,200 other units, and they are stair steps, so enter affordable, middle income, and market rate housing. And so we're planning on having a PSH project right in the middle of it, so it's not othered and put in another part of town, it's part of a bigger community, and then it allows folks to move from the PSH model into independent housing in the same community, so you're not losing your network, you're not losing your connections to and distance to employment, etc. So it's really nice to have that layered within a multi-income housing project.
Well, it's an important point that we're not here by accident, right? There are lots of folks who do this kind of housing in industrial areas or where you can get land, and we're very intentional about.
And we have, by the way, you have one of your county city council people and your mayor here, if you want to say hi.
Hello.
Sam Weaver, Matt Benjamin, anybody else?
Bob Yates.
Bob Yates, I didn't see
Bob,
that.
did you see
Bob
it?
Yates. Bob Yates, and I think there's a lot of interest from the council around how we can have more of that, integrated living and kind of folks that are, able to live affordably, with others, so I think that'll be, they're gonna get together and figure it out, but from what I can gather as a Boulder resident, it sounds like that'll be a big focus of the city council.
Yeah, and it's really important to have affordable housing for young people downtown, because I've heard so many businesses mention that they don't have the staffing that they need in order to provide.
Actually, that's a good question. Are you guys, either of you working part-time yet or full-time, or?
Currently, no. I
Mhm.
did for a certain amount of time. I worked at Michael's
Mhm.
for a few months. I'm currently looking for new work so that I can like start to save up towards the things that I want.
Great.
I've heard that there's a lot of places down on Pearl currently hiring.
It is a good time to find a job.
Yes.
Especially in the holidays.
I'm a sales consultant, so I work in specialize in sales for foreign Fortune 100, 500 clients. That's just my background. But also like doing physical exercises, doing workouts, doing like training. For instance, in the Institute of Health and Science here in Chicago, where I studied, I got the opportunity to get my foot in the door with like CNA and learning holistic health. And so that's where I see most of the value in what it is to bring wealth to the community at forefront, rather than being able to say just be an image, but also like you have tons and tons of compassion for people, and I think that's more than
That's right. Make sure that you'll get back, right? When you're doing well, you'll pay it forward. Exactly.
We're gonna be major donors one day.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say thank you for coming, and thank you for, bringing attention around this great cause, especially just having this month be dedicated to youth homelessness. I was a canvasser for 4 years before working here. I worked for a number of senators in the Colorado State House, and not one of them has ever sent me to a door saying, talk about homelessness. It's just not like the most glamorous topic. And I think that more politicians should definitely focus on it. So thank you for raising awareness. I truly, truly appreciate it. So.
Thank you. And I'm excited by what Chris said too, that it's a solvable problem, because it's too easy for people to just say, there's nothing we can do and we're giving up. But it's absolutely solvable. I mean, you two were on the streets and now you're not, right? Like, now you're here, and hopefully you'll never be on the streets again. And hopefully with the right support, you won't have to be in that situation again.
Yeah, and it's good that it's solvable, because at the end of the day, like, there are so many people who did not get that chance, and are where they're at now. They're too old to do this kind of stuff like through together themselves, but like they can get it through something else.
That's right.
And so it's better to get at it when they're young before they get too old, and then they just kind of lose the will to want to change and do stuff for themselves.
And that's true too. I mean, we never want to give up on anybody, but look, I'm 46. It's harder to change my habits than when you're 20, right? It's easier to change your habits when you're 20. People get stuck in their ways.
Yeah.
So one thing that I wanted to say is that we're a small organization, but we have really big goals. And we created a really fantastic success story here in Boulder. And we're looking to not only expand throughout the state of Colorado, but to expand nationally. So we really look forward to creating more success stories throughout Colorado to make that mission happen.
In addition to Denver, hopefully you're looking at Colorado Springs and Pueblo potentially as other.
Talking with Larimer, talking with Adams
Fort
County.
Collins could be good.
Developing a pipeline. The need is significant, and it's not just localized, right?
And are you the only game in town in Colorado in that 18 to 24 range? Is there any
For permanent
others?
supportive
Yeah.
housing, we were the first game in town, so to speak.
Somebody else is doing
We
it.
have helped other youth providers in Grand Junction and Colorado Springs. Grand Junction has a completed project,
Mhm.
and Colorado Springs is shopping land right now.
Good. Well, that's good that you're inspiring other activity.
Yeah, we don't have to do it, but we want to see it done.
Yeah, we've got some projects in the pipeline in Colorado Springs we're pretty excited about. Friendly Place. And we've got Paris and Grand Junction, a beautiful new building that we opened up a few years ago.
Yeah, and I would add, I mean, these deals don't get done without partners, and when people learn about the mission and want to know how they can contribute and what they can do to help, I mean, bringing land to the projects is a game changer. I mean, First United Methodist Church provided this site. The JV Denargo team in Denver is providing the 2700 Wewata site at pretty good terms, and they've been a huge partner in helping launch that project. And so I think facilitating ways for other landowners, developers, churches, city governments to bring land to the table is really gonna help develop more of these
So we have a big,
communities.
you know, I encourage Boulder to look at the city of Boulder land. The state owns a lot of land. Unfortunately, it's not usually in downtown areas, but it's still very helpful on this. So just the other day, I was at Rangeview. You probably had young people come through who have been at Rangeview, right? I'm sure. It's no longer there are issues with the operator, whatever it was, yeah. So, but in any event, it was a 560 acre campus. I mean, until recently it was used for 40 kids, which is an underutilization. But that's an example of 560 acres we have. We can do a lot with that. One of the things we're gonna do is substance abuse treatment and recovery.
That's a huge need.
So, huge need, right? For kind of like Fort Lyon, so people can be there 6 months, a year. It's like supportive housing for adults, but it's specifically around after the detox piece, how you can, recover sobriety and be stable over 6 and 12 months. It's a particular form of supportive housing. But we own a lot of other property. Unfortunately, it's not mostly in downtown.
Right.
It's usually
That's pretty rural.
out a little bit. That's pretty rural, and we own even more rural than that. We own some plots that are closer to city cores, but I think, it's important to get cities and counties thinking about what they own to other public entities and how they can partner to help, prevent assets from being underutilized. I mean, Rangeview is beautiful. I'm sure it did some kids some good, but the fact that 560 acres can only help 40 kids is kind of a ridiculous concept.
Well, that's the point, right? I mean, that's our name. It takes all of us working together to solve these kinds of problems.
And I agree, having a substance abuse type thing is always really good. My mom is currently doing, detox and everything like that, and it would always be great for, her to get herself back on her feet because she's been homeless for 5 years now. And that's where my homelessness first started. I was 13, almost 14, being homeless with my parents, and so getting to see people who could, be potentially doing better and get to live in supportive housing at the age that they are, older than us, is always a great thing to see as well, because it helps get more people off the streets and less substance abuse being on the streets as well.
Anybody else? All right, well, these are some great stories. I'm excited you're gonna be in Rhino and you're
When
gonna
the ribbon cutting, right?
Oh, of course. And it's also exciting you're inspiring other projects in Grand Junction and Colorado Springs. And as I hope work with our team, also with our legislators on making sure that as we make the $200 million investment, that some of that is specifically supportive of youth too. And by youth, we also mean, under 18, but also 18 to
Young
12.
adults.
Yeah, young adults both, yeah. So, great, thank you, everybody.
Well, thank you for
Yeah.
your time today.